YouTubers. I'm here in Springfield, Vermont today. We are at Gearworks, and Gearworks is the original home of the Fellows Gear Shaper Company, and then they expanded and moved up the river. That's the Black River down there in Route 106, and here's Gearworks. And the reason we're here today is the famous Richard King of machine rebuilding and way scraping fame is holding a class here, and we're gonna get some footage of that in a little bit. And we're gonna go down to Gearworks and show you what goes on there. A fellow by the name of Don Shattuck runs Gearworks, and he rebuilds gear making machines. And if you've never seen a Fellows Gear Shaper, or how they make gears before the days of CNC, it's really a fascinating operation. These machines are really quite amazing. And in their heyday, which was probably World War II through the 50s, they created every gear imaginable. And the way they did it was largely through generation. And there's probably a video you can look up called The Art of Generation, whereby they make gears which have an involute profile. And unlike gears that are cut with a rotating cutter, gears that are cut by generation are cut with a straight cutter, where the cutter and the gear rotate together, and they generate an involute profile that is basically exactly in proportion to the diameter, or the pitch diameter of the gear. So rather than having 7 or 8 different cutting wheels, where the only one size is actually correct, and then either side is larger or smaller, would be a little off one way or the other. The Fellows Gear Shaper would generate gears by generating them, where both the well, anyway, we're going to show you some of that, hopefully. Here's a Fellows Gear Shaper, and the way this works, hopefully we'll be able to show you this, is we have a cutter. This is the cutter, and the gear blank would go here, and they would rotate together. So as the gear rotates, the cutter goes up and down, and they rotate in synchronous with each other. So the shape is, if you look at the gear teeth, the cutting teeth here, they are straight. They don't have an involute profile, but as they rotate through the pitch diameter, or they rotate through the pitch circle, they cut an involute profile on the blank, and they go up and down. And to cut helical gears, there's a unit in the top up here, which actually, it's kind of like it's a helical piece, which rotates that cutter to cut a helical tooth on the blank. So this is one of the smaller Fellows Gear Shapers. So here's a much bigger Fellows Gear Shaper. Maybe Don can explain it. Cutting big spur. Is this just spur gears? So here's a hobbing machine. Hobbing a pretty good sized gear. Very quiet.
No, like my thumb over there. We're just cutting an internal teeth here.
Internal. Cool.
Yeah, tip of your data for a gear drawing there.
Now, here's a little gear hopper that's my size. We can just move this to my basement. That'll be fine. What was the name of the governor that owned Jones and Lambert? The
James Harkness.
Harkness, right.
He developed the
he was the
turret lathe. And he was sort of an amateur astronomer.
Yes.
He's at the observatory. And then he got involved with Russell Porter, which was at a different level of astronomy that created some observatories.
So, in addition to repairing these machines, Don also makes gears. He manufactures gears on spec, and here's a big machine. I don't know if you can see this. This is being set up, but this hopper is actually set at a little bit of an angle to this spindle that he's going to be cutting the gears on, and I don't know if that's deliberate or that's just the way the machine got left. He's a busy guy. He's in and out. I'm kind of wandering around here on my own. Surface grinder. Let's look at some of the stuff that's being rebuilt. This is a gear shaper, which is in the process of going back together or coming apart. Maybe coming apart. This may be coming apart because I see a little rust on some of the external pieces here, and it doesn't look all nice and cleaned up. So yeah, this is on the inside of the shop. And there's quite a bit of pieces and parts here. And over here we have two machines that have been completely torn down, cleaned up, repainted. Some of the gasket faces have been redone. Everything's been refitted, and if you look, see if I get a good look at the scraping work on here. This has all been redone, nice and true, so that the machine head that sits on top of this will do what it's supposed to properly. This is a lot of work. This is no fooling around here. This is not just, clean it up, repaint it, slap it back together. And Don is very gracious in allowing the second floor of this building to be used for the scraping class. This is really nice work. Even the insides are all cleaned and painted before they go back together. Here's a boring mill that's being torn down to be rebuilt. I don't know how one guy does this work. He's looking for help. He's always looking for help. It's very hard. Young help doesn't last long, and old help decides they want to go back to, I don't know, raising potatoes or something. Here's the inside of one of these small shapers, and this is being torn down. This is I guess the business end, the head that sits on that scraped surface you just saw. So a lot of shafts and journals and pins and gears and what have you. Quite a piece of machinery, and there's lots of it. I want to show you something else here that I think is really cool. Let me go find it. I'm kind of in the dark over here, but these machines are going to be rebuilt. This is a, I believe this is a Swiss-made Micron. This is a little tiny gear hopper. This whole machine could fit on your, well, the top, you know, the not with the exception of the motor maybe, but the whole rest of this machine could just sit on your desktop. And I just think these machines are just really cool. All the little linkages and gears, and they get sloppy. They need new bushings and parts and pieces. Anyway, this will be a little tiny gear hopper. Small stuff. Let's get another one that's a little more sophisticated here. And then over here we have a monster. So he's got big machines and small machines to make the gears of all sizes. Give you an idea how big this is. There's my hand. So big stuff. Here's another nice sized machine. This is a Barber Coleman. And there's the hob sitting in it. This is a smaller machine. Check out the inspection room here. These are instruments for measuring. If a customer were to send parts with broken teeth or things missing, maybe a gear split in two, and they need to get an accurate determination on what needs to be cut. You know, the size of the teeth, the pitch, the pressure angle, the lead angle. I believe this is a machine for measuring lead angle on helical gears. I only know that because I saw two of them upstairs taken apart. Here's another machine. We have some electronic measurement head here. And this is all Fellows equipment. So the same company that makes the manufacturing machines also made the precision test equipment. If you've ever read the book, The Foundations of Machine Accuracy, I think it is, by Moore, you'll see a lot of those techniques will be employed in these machines. Very rigid, heavy meehanite castings, everything scraped. You can see the scraping and flaking on the surface of this, even though these really aren't moving parts like in a manufacturing machine, but they're all scraped flat. Pretty big columns, about 2 inches in diameter. Balancing jig. I'm sure these spin very, very easily. Oh yes, look at that. Huh. That's quite a free spinning bearing. Still going. Yeah, pretty neat. Okay, so that's Gearworks. Fascinating place, and I didn't show you half of it. Alright, we're going to go up the stairs here outside to the second floor, and this is where Gearworks used to have their quality control and metrology lab, all their measurement stuff that you saw downstairs in that That lab used to be up here. And here's the fellows in the scraping class.
What did you call that yesterday?
So we have a Myford lathe here.
Okay.
This looks to be in pretty good shape.
It's too stiff. Yeah, thanks. You might have to put that longer one that we have on the
Smaller Myford.
ML7.
07.
No, ML7.
ML7.
Yeah. But from 1968 or something. Summer of Love.
This is the ram from a South Bend, small South Bend shaper.
Yep.
Good thing the whole shaper's not here. It might find its way into my car.
What's that?
Good thing the whole shaper's not here. It might find its way into my car.
Yeah, I know. They're nice. And I got my official Richard Dead Nuts symbol on there, so it's my last pass.
It looks like you got a pretty good blue pattern on there now.
Coming in.
See what's going on over here.
Hi, Mark.
Hi, Warren. I'm not filming faces here.
That's horrible. Perfect.
More work to do.
Cut that.
Okay, we've got a little flattening left to be done on that. Okay, here comes the Myford.
And we're gonna put it right. I don't know if we have to move yours a little closer there.
So this is supposed to be the second class that gets a little more into measuring, determining what needs to be done, not just the scraping technique alone, but actually more into the determining what needs to be done to rebuild the machine. So this will be gauged sitting on blocks from the bottom. You're gauging this.
I'm gonna go a little bit more over this way to get rid. Is that okay? Or are you gonna go this way with it? Yeah.
Running out of table.
Lucas and I are going to put his shaper thingy in on there. Oh, he's got one over there.
Aha, never mind.
You can use the whole table.
They look pretty good.
And I just bumped it a little bit.
Well, if that's any indication, hopefully you just have a little surface cleanup to do.
That's what I think it is, but I don't know.
Okay, stop.
You can see those shiny spots, eh?
So just scrape from like
right in here. Yeah, that's all I'm gonna do. Although these seem almost the same height. No, what do you think?
Yeah, but it could be because it's rocking on the plate.
Okay.
So take this out and get it so it pivots.
So I want to go.
That's what I would do.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do too. Because that's really where it was pivoting. Right? It's right in the middle.
Yeah, I just take the middle 3
Yeah,
inches out of
yeah,
it. Just
exactly.
take a pass on the middle 3 inches and
Yeah,
try it
yeah,
again.
yeah.
Don't go too much.
No, it'll go quick. Cool. Thanks.
So there you have it, boys and girls. That was my trip to Gearworks and the Richard King scraping class in Springfield. And I don't think I've spoken about the scraping class before, but I took that class at that same location about almost 2 years ago. And Warren, who you saw in the video, say hello to me, he kind of got this second class together, and the idea was to bring together the alumni of the first class and actually put a whole Bridgeport back together. And apparently that didn't happen. I think a lot of the old alums like myself didn't show up for this class. I had scheduling conflicts that managed to work themselves out that I actually could pay a visit, but I still wouldn't have been able to have done this class. And be that as it may, it appears that a lot of the attendees of this class were first-time scraping students, or first time at least with Richard King. And I learned a lot from that class, obviously. And having learned to scrape, it's really building that skill after that is important. So basically anything in my shop, if it isn't moving, it's probably going to get scraped at some point, and it's an infectious skill to obtain. So I encourage anyone who wants to rebuild machines or wants to just get their personal shop machinery really in better shape, holding better tolerance and being more square and the like, then you may want to consider taking a Richard King class as soon as it may be available, because Richard keeps threatening about to retire, and I can't say I blame him. I couldn't do what he does. He flies all over the world teaching professionals and amateurs alike, and you've probably seen the videos from John Sanders and was it Saunders, New York City CNC, Keith Rucker, Stefan Gottswinter, you name it. All these guys have attended Richard's classes, and they are worthwhile. There's a lot to be learned. And Gearworks is a fascinating place, and Don is a very talented machinist. He is rebuilding and putting back into precision what are probably some of the most complicated pieces of machine tool ever devised. You saw all the works in some of those heads. There's a lot going on there, and God, he's having trouble keeping up with it because he just can't find help. I mean, it's a horrible situation. It's indicative of our post-industrial age, I guess. Everybody does everything on a computer. Well, at some point the rubber meets the road, and you have to make parts, right? And but anyway, it's a really cool place, and if I lived closer, I'd give him 20 hours a week or so to I would help him try to get stuff out and learn some things in the process. I think it's cool. And so he makes gears as well as rebuilds those machines, and that's Gearworks. Pretty cool stuff. That whole valley, that Springfield, Vermont area, is known as Precision Valley, and we just touched on it briefly when I was talking to Don. A former governor of Vermont was a guy by the name of Harkness. Hartness, and he was a bit of a Renaissance man and entrepreneur. He was president of Jones and Lampson, and Jones and Lampson made, among other things, grinders, and Hartness invented the turret lathe, and so that was the birthplace for a lot of precision machine work over many, many years. Vermont Machine Tool is there now. Gearworks is still there. In fact, Don holds, I believe he owns the rights to all of the fellows gear shapers, blueprints, and he has all the standards, all the reference components for that metrology lab you saw. So it's pretty cool that it's still in the area and still there. So yeah, Springfield, Vermont. It's also home of a local steampunk festival, which we attended in September, which was pretty cool. My kids enjoyed that. So that's Precision Valley in Vermont. There's also a museum there, the Museum of American Precision, and it is as you might expect, it is a tool and machine museum, which is a pretty fascinating place to visit. They have a back room full of stuff, like one of Remington's first chronometers, bullet chronometers, which used two pieces of foil closely spaced as an electrical contact that they fired bullets to determine velocity, and using relays and stuff. Really cool stuff. So anyway, this guy Hartness, he was also an amateur astronomer, and he ground his own lenses and mirrors, and he had a very stately mansion. As president of Jones and Lampson, he did fairly well, and I don't think being governor hurt him any either. But he had an observatory on his property, and it was connected to his house by a long labyrinth of underground tunnels. And in the tunnels, he had machine shops and metrology labs and the like for building his telescopes. And he had one of the first clock-controlled tracking systems for photography. He would actually photograph celestial bodies using daguerreotype, and if you know anything about daguerreotype, you know it's not sensitive, and it requires really, really long exposures. So he developed a clock system where the clock was in the shop, where it was stable and temperature controlled and climate controlled, and he ran wires from the clock, which actually recorded the pendulum's movement, and those wires ran out to his observatory, which rotated the equatorial mount on the scope. So fascinating guy. His property, his estate, is now a bed and breakfast, and they hold weddings and the like there, and they held the steampunk festival there as well, which was very nice to see. And it was a very, early 1900s, late 1800s setting, quite appropriate for the steampunk festival. It was really a nice place to visit. And it's also, I believe, home to or somehow involved in an annual gathering of amateur astronomers, many of whom make their own telescopes and mirrors and the like, called Stella Fane. Stella, Stella-Fane, Stella Fane. So you can look that up. So anyway, that's a little bit of the history on Precision Valley and the whole stuff going on in Springfield, Vermont, and Gearworks and Vermont Machine and Fellows and Jones and Lampson and all that kind of stuff. So hope you found that interesting, and hopefully we'll get to do some more road trips. I don't know what else there might be. Maybe we'll do a road trip to American Precision Museum. But if you're in the area, if you're on the Connecticut River in Vermont, these are definitely places to see if you're a gearhead. Thanks for watching.